You could say that till this age, I could be called as a child, and then beyond such and such age, I could be called a teenager, and then youth, and then so on and so forth, right? It's very obvious when it comes to the body. But we are not greatly interested in the cycles of the body right now. When we are talking of youth and creativity, when we are talking of youth and architecture, we are talking of mental ripening. Mental ripening. Mentally, who is a child? Irrespective of the age, mentally, who is a child? Irrespective of the physical age. The physical age may be 5 years or 50 years. But who is mentally yet a child? Who would you call mentally arrested or mentally still a kid? Can we have somebody with the mic in between so that
so basically you cannot differentiate between right and wrong, cannot make decisions, probably not take care of himself or herself. That is the person you call child mentally.
what do you mean by all these things? Taking decisions for yourself, deciding between right and wrong,
Basically being independent.
being
Being independent
independent of what?
of your guardians or people who are taking care of you, bringing you up. So you're a child as long as you're in care of somebody and that person is deciding for you. And once you grow up, you leave, you become a teenager.
It's a very beautiful and significant word that you have picked up. Independence. Independence. But would you want to limit that independence to just being independent from guardians? Is dependence limited to the dependence that we have upon our guardians, or is dependence something more pervasive?
So it's more.
More pervasive. So if dependence is more pervasive, then surely independence too must be sought from many other sources, not only parents or guardians. Right? But it's good. One of the definitions of a child is a mental child is somebody who is good, somebody who is dependent. Now, as we said, the physical age does not matter. The physical age does not matter. You may be 70 years old, but if you are still dependent in a mental way, we are not talking about the dependency upon the doctor. Obviously, you have to be dependent. In a mental way, if you are still dependent, doesn't matter how old you are still a child. And here we are sitting in this hall trying to investigate what is youth. So something nice has come up right at the beginning, that someone who is dependent cannot be called young. Someone who is dependent cannot be called young. Now, why does one need to be dependent? Obviously, no one enjoys dependency. But still we find that we are often dependent. Why does one need to be dependent? Why does one need to be dependent?
So probably because at that time you're mentally and maybe also physically incapable of doing things yourself, you are bound to be dependent in both ways. maybe that for some people in special cases you might not be physically, but mentally yes you are.
Now this dependence is very much understandable if its nature is merely physical. Merely physical. But why are even physically grown-up people mentally dependent? And remember, all of this will lead us to ourselves. All of this will lead us to ourselves. What we are doing, our profession, our life. Why are even grown-up people dependent in a mental way, not in a physical way? Can you tell me a few types of dependencies?
Depending upon friends, depending upon friends and families. And depending upon friends and families for what? Suppose a man is working, he is depending on his wife to share his problems, and being with friends is like sharing our views and problems.
Now, is sharing dependency? Is sharing dependency? But yes, we are dependent. And that dependency is something a little different from sharing. What are the forms of dependencies that we come across? What kinds of dependencies?
Giving someone the right to take our decisions, right? And take ourselves.
Giving somebody the authority to take decisions on our behalf. A mind that cannot think for itself is forever dependent on somebody to take it forward, whose decisions are not its own. Good. So, that is more or less an agreeable definition of someone who is not yet young. Someone who is not yet young, a child. Who is a child? Who is dependent? Who is a child? Who is dependent? We are talking of mental dependency. So when I say child, do not quickly come up with an image of a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old. We are not talking of 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds. We are talking of 20-year-olds and 40-years-old who are still kids as far as their minds go. We are not discussing biology here. We are not looking at the physiological age. Right? So who is a child? Before we move into what is meant by a young person, we must first understand who is not yet a young person. A child is not yet young. And a child is not yet young because he is dependent. It is not the child's fault that he is dependent. The child cannot understand. It is inevitable that the child be dependent. The child has to be dependent. And all forms of dependency arise from the inability to make sense of the world using your own eyes and your own mind. Why does a child have to be dependent? You tell me. Why does a child have to be dependent? Yes?
Get proper guidance.
Okay, guidance. But then why does he have to seek guidance?
Doesn't have the ability to take decisions.
Doesn't have the ability to think and take decisions.
Sir, in their case, won't be all the childhood, so we all take them because we are given our teachers and also our families. There is this nature of no right that we have to obey and respect our elders. So won't we be all children, we all children?
Yes, of course. In front of the child, there is no alternative available. The child cannot even claim that I will not obey. For the child, obedience is a must. The child must obey. And why must the child obey? Because it does not have an option. See, either I have a faculty which guides me, something innate, internal, which is of my own, and if I don't have it, there is no option but to follow somebody else, to obey somebody. The child will have to do it. And why does the child have to do it? Because it cannot yet understand on its own. Its capacity for free thought has yet not become ripe, has yet not awakened. So then who is a child? Irrespective of the bodily age. Anybody who cannot think for himself, anybody who is perpetually only obeying and obeying is still a child in the mental sense. It doesn't matter that you are 40 years old. If all your movements are still movements dictated by somebody else, then you are a child. And that somebody else need not be a person. That somebody else could be a convention, a tradition, something that the books say, something that has been happening since long, something that has been considered sacred in your society or in your profession. If you find yourself in a situation where obedience is your life, where submission to authority is your life, then you are mentally a child. Then you are mentally a child. You see what I am trying to do? Before we come to understand what is it to be young, we must first understand what is it to not to be young. What is it to not to be young? The child cannot really think. So following somebody is the destiny of the child, inevitable destiny of the child. We need to ask ourselves, can we think for ourselves? Do we understand? Is my thought deep, or does it flicker with influences? If now let's bypass youth for a while and move straight away to old age. Who is an old man? Who is an old man? Yes? The one who is experienced.
Yeah.
What do you mean by experience?
Experience of the life.
Experience of life. What exactly is meant by experience?
Learning through the various situations.
Learning through various situations. What do you mean by learning through situations? When you pass through a situation, what do you learn?
how to deal with the situation, either good or the bad.
Sometimes the history are right, sometimes the results.
No, alright, I understand. You have passed through a situation and something happened in that situation. But where is the question of learning? What can you learn really?
Our thoughts. So if we are taking a decision in any situation, and if it has a bad mistake or whatever, then it's our fault. But we learn about it, how to deal with the same situation for the next.
The same situation next time. Tell me whether you will ever have the same situation next time. Will you ever have the same situation next time?
Sometimes maybe sometimes.
Is it ever possible that the same situation repeats itself? Are any two moments in life ever the same? Then there is a question of learning from experience.
It's like a cycle. Childhood, then youth, and then old age. We can pass it, like if we already start our childhood dependent on other people. So we can pass it on to next generation so that we can learn from our mistakes.
Forget about others learning from your mistakes. I am questioning whether we can learn from our own mistakes. Is it possible to really learn from experience? Because you say that we come to see what we did right and what we did wrong, and then the same situation arises another time. We have the benefit of experience. I am asking you whether the same situation will ever arise again. Then what is the use of this learning, and whether there is anything called learning?
At least we can suggest others.
When the same situation is not arising for you, how can it arise for others? I understand there is a great urge in us to think that experience has some value and some validity. But does experience really help?
So you will not learn from your experience, but you grow as a person from your experience.
What do you mean by growing as a person?
Being more mature.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, we will not get the same situation again and again, correct in that way. But you may get similar situations. There's a difference between being same and similar, right? So as a person you will develop, next time you will think it from a different perspective and handle it in a better way. So you will
What do you
definitely
mean by that?
it gives you advantage at the end. You don't handle it well. You don't handle it in the wrong way. In the end, the results are.
See, these pieces of furniture are present in this room, and they are as much in this room as you are. And at some point of time, you will move out of this room, they will stay here. They will witness many such sessions. The same sound waves that are falling in your ears will fall upon them as well. By the time they retire, by the time they are taken out of this room, and that would be from 20 or 50 years probably from today, they would have really experienced a lot. Does that experience help? And for them, all situations are similar. You said same, similar, and so many things. All situations are similar. Are they being helped? Are they getting better with time? What do you mean by learning from experience? That's what an old man thinks, by the way. We are talking of old age right now. An old man surely thinks that experience has made you, as you said, a more mature person. You meet any old man, and that is what he would claim, that I have a lot of experience, and that's what makes me special. I have a lot of experience, and that is why you must listen to me. I'm just opening up this thing to you. Does experience really help you mature, or is maturity a totally different dimension? I understand we have been continuously given this thing that experience is extremely important, that experience leads to maturity, and a tremendous value is being put upon experience and hence age, because experience requires time, time is age. So there is a lot of emphasis upon that, and that is exactly the emphasis that an old man puts. But you tell me, does learning really come from experience? Yes. I know. That is exactly what we have been hearing all our life. But there is no harm in just trying to investigate it for a while. What is so special about being old? And if being old is so special, because as you said, the old man has experience in learning. Why talk of youth in architecture? Why not talk of old men in architecture? They are the ones who have the experience, right? So why not change the topic of today's session to old men in architecture? Why not? By your own words, it's the old man who can learn from his mistakes and hence who has attained a certain level of ripening and perfection. Where is the mic?
So because one of the most important things is passion and enthusiasm. We all have dreams from a child to an old person. But when we talk about a child, he sees dreams, but he has dreams, but he doesn't have, he is not independent. And similarly, when we come to the old age, an old person has experiences and dreams, but he is calm and relaxed, and like he has so many responsibilities. But when we come to youth, we see dreams, and we have the enthusiasm and the passion to fulfill them. So that is why we look at youth, and we have imagination, creativity, along with passion, energy, and independence.
So the old man, we are not talking of the physically old man. I need to remind it again and again. We are talking of the mentally old man. You are saying the old man does not have energy and passion?
So same, similarly, I'm also talking about the, not only physical old man, but it's mental old man.
See, if the old man has energy and passion,
It can be all.
then he is definitely preferable to the young man because he is what the young man is, energetic, passionate, plus he has experience. So you agree that we must change today's topic to old men in architecture. Why not?
So
What's wrong with being old? The old man has experience.
there will be repetition.
Huh?
Repetition in the situations. Like we'll be dealing the situations in the same old manner.
So something new is coming up. She's saying he has experience, but then he starts dealing in situations in the same old manner because of his experience. Is that so? She said the old man has enthusiasm and passion and is energetic. Why is the old man not energetic? And we are not saying that he is old now and he has arthritis, so that is why he can't be energetic. We are talking about the mentally old. Why can't the old man be energetic? He has experience and he should have learned from his experience that he must be energetic. If an experience is learning, if experience really teaches you something, then experience should have also taught you to be passionate, energetic, and creative.
So, what the basic difference what I feel here is, an old person is a person who's crossed all stages of life, childhood, youth, adult, all of them. So, the basic difference here from the youth, what the advantage here is, the power, the potential which the youth possesses is the maximum at their stage. And secondly, they have the power to mold things, to mold their own minds and bring about those changes which are probably difficult to bring about in old age, where they tend to become more stagnant. Because they have already crossed those stages.
No. When we talk of the body, then there is a progression. You are child, then you are young, and then you are old. And it's a linear thing, right? You cannot become old before becoming young when it comes to the body. But when we are talking of the mind, it is very possible that you can straight away become old without ever becoming young, without ever finding your youth. And that is what happens to most of the people. Mentally they are born a child and very quickly they become old and they never experience what is it to be really young. So if you say that the old man is one who has passed through all the stages of life, not true. The body has surely passed, but the mind can bypass the chronological order.
So how is it possible that the mind can bypass stage of being
You see so many people around you. Probably you need to keep the microphone distance from this. You see so many people around you who are physically young. But mentally very, very old. Right? Mentally extremely old. Now ask yourself, how did this happen? That the old age was totally dominant. There was Oscar Wilde who said, youth is lost upon the young. He said the young of body are rarely young from the mind. They are old, already old. The young of body are rarely young of mind. They are already very old.